is Lena Caldwell. I am 31 years old, and for the past 6 years, my family has believed I spend my days filing paperwork in a windowless government office somewhere in downtown Chicago. They are not entirely wrong about the windowless part. I never planned to keep the secret this long. But secrets have a way of growing roots when the people around you have already decided who you are. And my family decided who I was a long time ago. The morning everything changed started the way most disasters in my life do, with my brother calling me before 7 a.m. "You're coming to the dinner tonight, right?" His voice carried that particular edge he uses when he already knows the answer he wants and is daring me to give him a different one. Mom and Dad confirmed the reservation at Sable for 8. I need a head count. Sable, of course. The kind of restaurant where the prix-fixé menu starts at $240 a person, and the sommelier makes you feel stupid for asking what region a wine comes from. My brother loves places like that. He loves anything that requires a reservation made 3 months in advance and a dress code that most people have to Google. "I'll be there," I said. "Great," a pause. "And Lena, please don't wear that gray blazer again. It looks like something from a thrift store clearance rack. We're celebrating Dad's retirement. This is a big deal." He hung up before I could respond. That's another thing my brother does. He ends conversations the moment he said everything he needed to say, as if the call is a meeting and you're his subordinate. I set the phone down on my kitchen counter and looked out the window at Lake Michigan, flat and silver in the early October light. My apartment is on the 34th floor of a building in Streeterville. The rent is more than my brother thinks I make in 2 months. He thinks I make about $62,000 a year because that's what I told him I made when I first took this position. Because the actual number was classified and the job title I gave him, Federal Compliance Analyst, was close enough to boring that nobody ever asked follow-up questions. I opened my closet. Not the closet by the front door, but the one in the second bedroom that I keep locked. Inside, behind a row of ordinary clothes, hung a single garment bag. I unzipped it just enough to see the shoulder board. The gold insignia caught the morning light. Special Agent in Charge, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I zipped it back up. Tonight I would be the disappointing daughter, the one who never quite measured up, the one my brother introduces at parties as, "My sister, she works for the government. Nothing exciting." I would sit at whatever table they put me at, probably near the kitchen, probably facing the wall, and I would eat whatever was ordered for me, and I would smile, but I would be wearing a wire. Not literally, but close enough. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you've ever had to hide who you really are from the people who were supposed to know you best, hit subscribe, because this story is for you. The drive to Sable from my apartment takes 11 minutes. I know because I timed it the first 3 times I made it, back when my brother first started booking dinners there to impress his clients. He lives in Lincoln Park in a 4-bedroom brownstone that he had completely renovated 2 years ago. The renovation cost more than most people's annual salary. He showed everyone the before and after photos at Thanksgiving. He emailed them to relatives who hadn't asked. My brother's name is Derek. He is 38 years old. He runs a private equity firm that he started with seed money from our father when he was 26, and he has spent the 12 years since then turning that into something that regularly gets him mentioned in Crane's Chicago business. He is tall and broad-shouldered, and he has the kind of easy, permanent confidence that comes from never having been truly wrong about anything. Or at least from never having been made to feel it. He was always the plan. From the time we were children, Derek was the plan. He went to Northwestern for undergrad, then Kellogg for his MBA. Every milestone was celebrated like a national holiday. I have a photograph somewhere of my parents at his graduation, both of them crying, my mother clutching a sign she'd made herself that said Future CEO in block letters. I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign on a full scholarship. Criminal justice. My mother asked if that meant I wanted to be a prison guard. My father said it was practical. Neither of them came to my graduation because Derek had a business pitch in San Francisco that weekend, and they went to be there for him. I walked across that stage with my roommate's parents cheering from the stands, and I told myself it didn't matter. By the time I was 24, I was in Quantico. By the time I was 27, I had my badge. By the time I was 29, I had led a task force that dismantled a money laundering network operating across 4 states. None of this was something I could tell them. The cover story was simple and suffocating and necessary. Federal Compliance Analyst, Department of the Interior. Basically an auditor, I would say when people pressed. Very boring. And people believed me because it fit what they already thought about me. Lena, the underwhelming. Lena, the practical. Lena, who took a government job because she couldn't hack it in the private sector. I pulled up to Sable at 7:52. I handed my keys to the valet. He was young, maybe 19, and he looked at my car, a 2021 Buick Envision, deliberately unremarkable, deliberately forgettable, with the particular brand of polite indifference that expensive restaurants train their staff to perform. Inside, the host stand gleamed under low, warm lighting. The restaurant smelled of truffle and old wood and money. Reservation under Caldwell, I said. The hostess checked her screen. Of course, your party is already seated. Right this way. She led me past the bar, past the main dining room with its high ceilings and velvet banquettes, and then I clocked it immediately. She turned left instead of right. The left side of Sable is technically still the restaurant, but it's where the kitchen noise leaks through the wall and the lighting is slightly harsher and the tables are 3 inches closer together. My family was at a table for 6 near the service corridor. My brother stood when he saw me. He looked me up and down. I was wearing a deep burgundy wrap dress that I'd bought at Nordstrom, not the gray blazer. And his expression shifted into something that was almost approval before recalibrating to neutral. You made it, he said. I was starting to think you'd bail. I said I'd be here. He gestured vaguely at the table. My mother was already seated, wearing the pearl earrings my father gave her on their 30th anniversary. My father sat across from her, looking tired in the way that men look tired when they've just retired and don't know what to do with themselves yet. Across from me, Derek's wife, immaculate in a cream blazer, her dark hair blown out to perfection, gave me a small, precise smile, and at the head of the table, occupying the chair that made it clear who tonight was really for, sat Derek. Lena. My mother patted the seat beside her. Come sit. Derek just ordered the wine. It's a burgundy. Very special. Derek picked it out himself. She probably doesn't know burgundy, Derek said, not quietly. He was talking to the table but looking at me. No offense. It's just, you drink mostly beer, right? I saw you at the 4th of July with a Modelo. His wife laughed, a short, bright sound like a single piano key. I sat down. I unfolded the cloth napkin in my lap. I looked at the menu. The amuse-bouche arrived. A single bite of something cold and architectural on a small slate, and my brother launched into his speech about my father's retirement the way he launches into all speeches, which is to say loudly and without checking whether anyone else has anything to say first. 35 years at Caldwell and Associates, Derek said, raising his glass. The firm bore our family name because our grandfather had started it, and our father had grown it, and Derek had joined it at 26 and then bought out our father's partners and rebranded it and essentially remade it in his own image while keeping the name because the name still carried weight. Dad, you built something that will outlast all of us, and now it's in good hands. He looked at himself when he said that last part. Just briefly, just enough. My father smiled. My mother dabbed at her eye. Lena, you want to say something? Derek asked, with the generosity of someone throwing a bone. I set down my fork. Happy retirement, Dad. You deserve the rest. That's it? Derek laughed. Short and sweet. Very, Lena. Derek, my mother murmured. What? I'm just saying. She's always been the quiet one. He leaned back in his chair. It's fine. Not everyone is a public speaker. The appetizers came. Derek ordered for the table. He always orders for the table, and nobody commented. Because that's simply how dinners with Derek work. My father got the scallops. His wife got the beet salad. I got the soup. I looked at the soup. It was fine soup. It was probably very good soup. But I had looked at the menu, and I knew that Derek had ordered me the cheapest appetizer available. Not because he was paying attention to cost, he was expensing this entire dinner, but because the choice was a message. A small, precise message delivered in the language of food at a restaurant where the language of food is the only language that matters. You are the budget option. You are the afterthought. You get the soup. How's work? My father asked me with the careful gentleness of a man who doesn't know what to ask but is trying. Good, I said. Busy. We have a big case project finishing up. What kind of project? His wife asked. Compliance review, I said. Multi-state audit. A lot of moving pieces. Sounds exciting, she said, in a tone that communicated the exact opposite. Derek was scrolling something on his phone under the table. I noticed because I notice things. It's not a skill I cultivated for family dinners, but it transfers. I keep telling Lena she should come work for us, Derek said to nobody in particular. We have a position in operations. Entry level, but it would be a step up from auditing spreadsheets for the government. I'm happy where I am, I said. You're comfortable, he corrected. There's a difference. Government jobs are comfortable. They're stable. Nobody gets fired. Nobody gets challenged. You clock in. You clock out. You collect your pension in 30 years. He smiled at me. It was the smile of someone explaining something obvious to someone slow. I'm not criticizing. It suits you. Not everyone is built for the pressure of the private sector. The main course arrived. Derek had ordered himself the Wagyu. My father got the duck. I got the salmon. The salmon was not the cheapest main course, but it was the second cheapest. I checked. By the time dessert came, which Derek ordered without asking whether I wanted any, a choice that resulted in a single macaron appearing in front of me while everyone else received the chocolate souffle. I had made a decision. Not tonight. Not here. But soon. The office of the Chicago Field Division of the FBI is not, technically, a windowless room. It has windows. They face north, and in winter, the light through them is thin and cold and exhausted, which is how most of us feel by February. The morning after the dinner, I sat across from my supervisor, a man named Hargrove, who has been in federal law enforcement for 22 years and who is constitutionally incapable of small talk, and briefed him on the status of the Meridian investigation. The target is confirmed for the gala Saturday, I said. Our intelligence puts him at the Langham from 7 onward. His financial advisor will be present. If he makes the transfer we've been tracking, we'll have enough for the warrant. Hargrove looked at the file. You're going as yourself? I'm on the guest list as a corporate attorney. The cover is clean. My contact at the venue can route me to the right table. He nodded. You'll have full tactical support on standby. 6 agents in civilian positions throughout the event space. If anything moves, you call it, and they move. I nodded. Caldwell. He looked up. You've run 31 undercover operations in 6 years. You have a clearance that most agents don't see until they're 45. You are very, very good at this. He paused. Does your family know any of that? I looked at him. Never mind, he said. None of my business. It's fine. No, they don't. He picked up his pen. One of these days that's going to come out. I know, I said. Will it be a problem? I thought about the salmon. I thought about 31 years of being the quiet one, the disappointing one, the one who just wasn't built for pressure. No, I said. It won't be a problem. I was wrong. In the way that you were only wrong about the things you are most certain of. The call came on a Thursday, 3 weeks after my father's retirement dinner. I was in the middle of a briefing when my personal phone, the one I keep for family, the one that almost never rings during work hours, lit up on the corner of my desk. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again. Then my father. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway, and listened to the voicemail. Lena, honey, it's Mom. Listen, Derek and Catherine are renewing their vows for their 10th anniversary. They're doing a whole event at the Langham this Saturday. I know it's short notice, but Derek wants everyone there. He's gotten a block of hotel rooms. We have one for you. It's on a lower floor, I think, but it should be fine. He says bring something nice to wear. Oh, and honey, Catherine's mother will be there, and she just published a book, so please don't bring up your job. It might be awkward. Just say you're between things, okay? Call me back. I stood in the federal building hallway and read back over the message twice. The Langham. This Saturday, the same event I was working. I went back into the briefing room. Change of plan, I said. I won't need the corporate attorney cover. Hargrove looked up. I'll be attending as myself. The Langham Chicago sits on the bank of the Chicago River on East Upper Wacker, in a building that used to be a skyscraper and has since been converted into one of the most beautiful hotels in the city. The ballroom on the event floor has floor-to-ceiling windows that look out over the river and the glittering architecture of the loop. My brother's vow renewal was happening in one half of that ballroom. My federal investigation was happening in the other. I arrived at 6:45. My family was arriving at 7. I had 15 minutes to brief my team and get into position. I wore a black evening dress, understated, no jewelry except small gold earrings. My badge was in my evening bag, along with my phone and a communication device that looked, to any reasonable observer, like a compact mirror. 6 agents in position, my earpiece confirmed. Target has arrived. He's at table 11, east side of the venue. His financial advisor is with him. Copy, I said quietly, walking through the lobby with my chin up and my expression set to polite indifference. I'll be at table. What was the family seating? I pulled out my phone. My mother had forwarded the seating chart. Table 14, near the service corridor. Same as always. I checked my watch. 6:52. At 6:58, my mother appeared at the entrance wearing a beaded navy gown. My father was beside her. They spotted me, and my mother's face did the thing it always does. A brief, complicated sequence of emotions that ends at something like resigned affection. Lena, you look lovely, she said, kissing my cheek. Thanks, Mom. Is that dress from last year? Before I could answer, Derek materialized behind her, resplendent in a navy tuxedo that matched Catherine's gown in a way that suggested coordination and personal stylists. He looked at me. He looked at my dress. Black, he said. It's an evening event. Catherine specifically said jewel tones. He turned to greet someone behind him. Whatever. Just stay near the back during the photos. I don't want the palette to be off. Catherine appeared on his arm, luminous and organized and precise. She looked at me with that same small, calibrated smile from the restaurant. Lena, you came. Of course. Derek said you might not. Something about work. I rearranged my schedule. She looked faintly surprised. Then she smiled, more genuinely this time, and they were swept away by the coordinator, and I was left standing with my parents in the entrance of the ballroom, 14 seconds from the moment my entire professional life was about to collide with my family in a way I could not fully predict or control. 13, said the voice in my earpiece. Target is moving toward the bar. Copy. Eyes on. My mother looked at me. Are you cold? You're very still. I'm fine, Mom. They seated us. Table 14, service corridor. Exactly as promised. From my chair, I could see table 11 at an angle, across the glittering room. I could see the man we had spent 4 months investigating, relaxed and laughing, holding a glass of champagne. I ordered sparkling water. Derek was at the head table with Catherine, which meant he circulated during the cocktail hour, stopping at each table to perform the role of magnanimous host. When he reached table 14, our parents, 2 of his college friends and me, he dropped into the empty seat beside me with the loose, expansive energy of a man who had been drinking champagne for 45 minutes. So, he said, like we were continuing a conversation we hadn't started. Mom says you had to move some things around to be here tonight. A few things, yes. Work stuff? Yes. Must be nice to have that kind of flexibility. He said it without looking at me, his eyes scanning the room for more important things. Government jobs. Nobody's monitoring your output anyway, right? As long as you show up enough. Something like that. I genuinely can't imagine doing the same thing for 6 years and feeling like I was going anywhere. He shook his head, the way you shake your head at something baffling but ultimately harmless. But I guess that's why some people are entrepreneurs and some people are, he waved a hand, support staff. From my earpiece, Target is transferring the device. We are live. Caldwell, you have approximately 8 minutes before we need eyes on the exchange. I put down my sparkling water. Support staff, I repeated. Derek was already looking across the room. No offense. Derek. My voice had shifted. Not loud. Not sharp. Just different. Steady in a way that was new enough that he actually turned his head to look at me. I need to tell you something. He raised an eyebrow. Now? The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. It won't take long. Something in my tone. Maybe it was the posture. Maybe it was that I was looking at him with the same level focus I use when I'm about to make an arrest. Whatever it was, it made him stop performing long enough to actually pay attention. I don't work for the Department of the Interior, I said. I never did. He stared. My name is Special Agent Lena Caldwell. I'm with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Chicago Field Division. I'm the agent in charge of a federal financial crimes operation that is currently being executed in this room. I paused. I need to go do my job now. We can talk after. Silence. Derek looked at me. Then he looked around the room. Then he looked back at me. Are you serious right now? 8 minutes, Caldwell. The voice in my ear was calm. Professional. I'm serious, I said. I reached into my evening bag and showed him briefly. The edge of my badge. Gold. Official. Very real. Derek went pale in the way that people go pale when the ground shifts under them. Slowly, from the inside out. FBI, he said. Yes. Since when? 6 years. But you said I know what I said. I stood up, smoothing the skirt of my dress. Stay here. Don't talk to anyone near table 11. If anyone asks, you don't know me professionally. I don't know you at all, apparently, he said quietly, without his usual edge. That one landed. I won't pretend it didn't. We'll talk later, I said. And then I turned and I walked across the ballroom, past the floating candles and the string quartet and the guests in their jewel tones, toward table 11. What happened next took 4 minutes and 40 seconds. I will not describe it in full detail because some of it is still part of an active federal record. What I will say is this. The man at table 11 saw me coming before his financial advisor did. I watched his expression move through several stages: curiosity, confusion, recognition, fear. In about 3 seconds. He was standing before I reached him. His hand was on his jacket pocket. Mr. Ostroff, I said loudly enough for the people nearby to hear. I showed my badge. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Please place your hands where I can see them. The string quartet stopped on a D. 6 agents materialized out of the crowd, each from a different direction, moving with the quiet precision of people who have done this many times. Within 60 seconds, the target was in handcuffs, his financial advisor was being detained near the bar, and the guests at surrounding tables were frozen with champagne flutes halfway to their mouths. In the shocked silence that followed, someone across the ballroom said, very clearly, "Oh my God, is that Derek Caldwell's sister?" I did not look back. The lobby of the Langham at 10:45 on a Saturday night is quiet in the way that only very expensive places are quiet. A cultivated, deliberate hush that money maintains like a gardener maintains a hedge. I found my family in a sitting area near the east windows arranged on 2 facing sofas, with the specific posture of people who have recently had a significant experience and are still processing it. My mother was holding a glass of water. My father had his hands clasped in his lap. Derek sat across from them, his tuxedo jacket draped over the armrest, his sleeves rolled up. Catherine was not there. I found out later that she had handled the remainder of the ceremony with characteristic efficiency, announcing to the guests that the evening would continue as planned and that the law enforcement activity had been unrelated to the event. That was technically not entirely accurate, but it kept the party going. I sat down in the chair across from Derek. For a moment, nobody said anything. "You're really FBI," my father said. "Yes, Dad." "For 6 years. Almost 7, actually." He nodded slowly, the way he nodded when something exceeded his ability to immediately process it. He had the same expression at Derek's second company acquisition, like the world had revealed a larger number than he'd expected. "Why didn't you tell us?" my mother asked. Her voice was careful, not accusatory, at least not yet. Is it illegal to tell us? Are we not allowed to know? It wasn't illegal, I said. It was a judgment call. When I first started, I was in a deep cover unit. The cover had to be complete, and then I paused. I had rehearsed this conversation in my head dozens of times, in various forms, over 6 years. None of those rehearsals had taken place in the Langham after a federal arrest at a vow renewal. And then time passed. And every time I came home, you'd already decided who I was. It felt easier to let you believe it than to fight it. "We didn't decide anything," my mother said. We didn't know. You decided I was the quiet one, the support staff." I looked at Derek when I said that. He didn't flinch, but something in his face shifted. You decided I was someone who needed coupons and budget options and a table near the kitchen. And I let you because I didn't know how to make you see me differently without blowing a 6-year operation. That last part wasn't entirely fair. I know that. I let them believe it partly for operational reasons, and partly because somewhere, in the part of me that is still 8 years old and watching her parents cheer for her brother at his Little League game, I thought maybe if I was patient enough, they would look up and see me on their own. They hadn't. Derek was looking at his hands. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. "That operation tonight," he said. Is that what you do?" "Run those. I'm the agent in charge of financial crimes investigations for the Chicago division, yes." "How many?" He stopped. Started again. "How many have you run?" 32, including tonight." He was quiet. I could see him doing the math of it, the way he does math on everything. Calculating value, calculating scale. Somewhere in that calculation, the image of me as the budget option was being revised. "I said something tonight," he said, "about support staff." "You've said a lot of things," I said. "Tonight and other times." "I know." He met my eyes. He looked tired in a way that was different from his usual performance of exhaustion as status symbol. He looked genuinely tired. "I know I have." My father reached across the space between the sofas and put his hand on my arm. It was the kind of touch that men of his generation make when they want to say something they don't have language for. His hand was warm. "I'm sorry, Lena," he said. "I should have asked more questions." "Yes," I said. Not warmly, not coldly, just honestly. "You should have." My mother was crying, which was not unexpected. My mother cries at commercials and season finales, and the word proud, which I note because she said it now. "I am so proud of you," she said. "God, Lena, I am so proud of you," she said. "God, Lena, I am so proud." I looked at her. I felt the words the way you feel something you have wanted for a very long time. Not with joy exactly, but with a complicated mixture of relief and grief, and the unsettling awareness that the wanting had changed you more than the getting ever could. "Thank you, Mom," I said. "Is there anything you can tell us?" my father asked. "About your work? Any of it?" "Some things. The rest is confidential. The man tonight, financial crimes. I can't say more than that yet." Derek nodded slowly. He picked up his jacket from the armrest, smoothed it, set it down again. He was not, I realized, going to make a speech. For the first time in my memory, my brother was not going to try to reframe this in a way that centered himself. He was just sitting with it. That, perhaps more than anything else, surprised me. "I owe you an apology," he said, "a real one. Not the kind where I explain why I behaved the way I did and somehow end up making it about my own stress level." I waited. "I made you feel small because it was easier than wondering if I was actually the one who was less." He rubbed the back of his neck. "That's the truth. I'm not proud of it. I had waited a long time for those words. 6 years. Or maybe 31. Here's what I have learned about the thing you wait a long time for. It rarely feels the way you imagine it will. I thought I would feel vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired and a little sad, and underneath that, something quieter. Something that was maybe the beginning of something better. "I know," I said. "I'm not asking you to forgive me tonight," Derek said. "I'm just saying it. For real." "Okay," I said. "I heard you." We sat there for a while longer, the four of us, in the hush Langham lobby, with the river glittering outside the windows and the distant sound of my brother's vow renewal party continuing on the floor above us, the string quartet playing something Lena adjacent in the background. Something measured and unhurried, like someone who has learned how to pace themselves. Eventually, my father said, "Are you hungry? You must have been working all night. Should we get something?" I had, in fact, not eaten since noon. "Yes," I said, "but not salmon." My father laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of him, the kind he used to give when I was small, and said something that caught him off guard. My mother laughed too. Even Derek's mouth pulled up at the corner. I stood and straightened my dress. "There's a diner on Michigan Avenue that's open late. Good pie. Nothing fancy." "Sounds perfect," my father said. Derek stood too. He met my eyes. He did not offer me his arm or any grand gesture. He just nodded, the way you nod at someone you are starting to see clearly after a long time of looking in the wrong direction. We walked out of the Langham together. Not me 3 paces behind. Together. The Chicago River was black and bright below the bridge, the city lights fracturing across the water into 1,000 moving pieces. I breathed the cold October air and felt it fill me up cleanly, the way air does when you step outside after a long time in a closed room. I had spent 6 years being someone small in the eyes of the people who should have known me best. I had spent 6 years telling myself it didn't matter, that the work was enough, that the badge in my bag and the commendations in my file and the operations that I would never be able to fully explain to anyone outside of a SIF were sufficient proof of who I was. They were. They are. But it is a different thing to be seen. I pulled out my phone. There was a message from Hargrove. 3 words, "Good work, Caldwell." I typed back, "Thank you, sir." Then I turned off the notifications, put the phone in my bag, and walked toward the diner with my family in the cold, bright October night as myself. All as myself. For the first time. Remember, you don't have to earn the right to be known. You were worth knowing all along. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had a moment where someone finally saw the real you? I want to read every single one. I have thought about that night a lot since it happened. Not the arrest. I've made 32 of those, and they blurred together eventually, the way any repeated thing does. I think about the moment just before I stood up from table 14. The salmon I didn't touch. The macaron I didn't ask for. The particular quality of Derek's voice when he said, "support staff." Casual, certain, not even cruel so much as just completely unquestioned. That's the thing that stays with me. He wasn't performing cruelty. He genuinely believed it. And for a long time, some part of me believed it too. That's the part that's hard to admit. I spent 6 years building something real. Arrests, commendations, a career that most people in federal law enforcement work 15 years to reach. And I still sat at that table and ate the macaron and said nothing. Not because of operational security. Not entirely. I said nothing because the habit of being small around the people who first made you feel small is one of the hardest habits to break. You can be competent everywhere else in your life and still shrink in that one specific room. What I've come to understand is that the people who diminish you are usually not doing it consciously. Derek wasn't calculating. He was just running the same program he'd been running since we were kids, the one where he was the exceptional one, and I was the manageable one, the one who needed guidance, the one who was taken care of. That program ran on its own without his attention, the way all deeply held assumptions do. He didn't look at me and decide to underestimate me. He just never looked closely enough to see anything that challenged what he already believed, and I let him. That's on me. Here is what I think is true. The world tends to reflect back to you the version of yourself you present most consistently. I presented Derek with a woman who accepted the soup, took the back seat, smiled at the macaron. Of course he thought that was all I was. I had spent 6 years confirming it for him. The night at the Langham didn't fix everything. My brother and I still have 31 years of a complicated history, and one honest conversation in a hotel lobby, however necessary, doesn't erase that. What it did was open a door. He said something real for the first time. I heard it. That's not reconciliation. That's just the beginning of the possibility of it. I'll take it. What I keep coming back to is this. Being unseen by the wrong people does not make you invisible. The work I did those 6 years existed, whether Derek knew about it or not. The people whose lives were affected by those investigations didn't need him to validate them. The truth of who you are doesn't wait for someone's permission to be true, but it is a different thing, a genuinely different thing to be known. To be in a room with the people who shaped you and have them finally see you clearly. Not because you need their approval to function, but because there is something in us that wants to be witnessed by the people we came from. That's not weakness. That's just being human. I walked out of the Langham that night, and the air was cold and sharp off the river, and I breathed it in, and I felt for the first time in a long time like all of the parts of me were in the same place at the same time. That's all I was looking for. That's all any of us are looking for.